received an award from Putin. Can you just tell the story about?
I think that was the toughest period of my life in my career, if I can say, because I had to leave behind my little daughter, and I was, tormented with kind of feelings of guilt that I'm leaving my kid behind. And at the same time, I wanted to pursue my career and finish the PhD. So this also came as a big surprise to me. I was invited to go to Moscow with my spouse, and then we were given quite a VIP treatment.
Hello everyone, this is Simran Rajpal and you're watching Jagran Josh. This International Women's Day, we are celebrating some amazing women who have achieved a lot in their careers and followed their path of success. Today we have Dr. Nilakshi Surya Narayan with us, who has been a professor of Russian language for over 3 decades. I welcome you to the show, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with you and to be on your show. It's a pleasure and honor for me.
So here comes my first question for you. How did you discover your passion in Russian languages, and how did you manage to, pursue it for like over 3 decades?
So actually my story starts when I was just a little kid. I mean, it goes back to the time when I think I must have been 5 or 6 years old, and there's a Russian dance troupe that came to perform. Yeah. And I was just so fascinated by their dance that as a kid, I even ran up to the stage. I remember that. And I think from that time onwards, perhaps at my subconscious level, I had something that I want to be connected with this. And then as I grew up, Russian was kind of becoming well known. Actually, we used to get these lovely books, children's books, which my father used to bring. They were, of course, in translation, but they had beautiful illustrations. And I used to read them, and slowly my interest grew. And then when I was in school, in fact, Russian language was somehow introduced, at the level of the 10th class. So again, I got the opportunity and I said, I must learn this language. And then again, it seems like it was in my fate. Then when I passed out from school, I first actually got admission in LSR, but then I heard of Jawaharlal Nehru University and that there was a Center of Russian Studies and you could actually do a BA and MA program. So I decided that yes, this is it. By this time, I had been reading Russian literature in English, and I was like totally fascinated by Russian literature. So I said, well, I must learn the language and I have to read everything in the original. So my journey with Russian started like that. And then I got the opportunity to go actually to Russia. That was already still the Soviet Union. And there was this university which is called People's Friendship University. So that again really fascinated me, that it's a university which is full of foreign students as well as Russian and Soviet students. So what an opportunity to live in an international atmosphere. So then that was my next dream, that I must get there to study. And I managed to get that. And then, yes, then there was no looking back. I finished my post-graduation in Russian language, literature, culture. It was called philology. And then I came back. And then I started teaching and sort of taking forward the language as a career option.
Okay, you received an award from Putin. Can you just tell the story about it? Because, how did you get there and what was the entire thing?
So this also came as a big surprise to me. The Russian government gives these awards for people who have made some contribution in the field of Russian language, literature, or allied subjects, who have kind of promoted this in their country. So that is how I was nominated for this award. And actually, I was also heading the department that time, and we had done a few conferences and anyway been actively involved, So it just came as a very, very pleasant surprise for me. So I was called, I was invited to go to Moscow with my spouse, and then we were given quite a VIP treatment. And yes, it was like what a momentous moment to actually receive the award from President Vladimir Putin. It was a big honor, yes.
Okay, so how has your experience in Russian language and literature changed your perspective towards, exploring the new cultural, you can say, activities or literature or new languages?
So actually, when you start learning a foreign language, a whole new world opens before you, you know. So it is not just that you're just learning the language and then you're learning to say hello in Russian and say how do you do in Russian. It's a whole culture that opens up before you. The food, the mentality of the people, you know, their customs, their outlook on life. So you begin to kind of really understand the new people. And of course, reading literature in their own language also really opens out. So it really expands your horizon, and you do begin to change as a person, you know. So like if I've been brought up in India and maybe I held myself back being a girl, you know, that okay, girls don't do this, girls don't do that. And then when I went to the Soviet Union and I saw how freely women were working and how much kind of independence they had and how much confidence they had in themselves, that, you know, kind of gave me something to look to, and I started molding myself in that way. So a foreign language opens out definitely a new culture, and it changes you as a person. It changes your outlook on life.
Okay, like for you have been like navigating academia like for over 3 decades. What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them?
So actually, my biggest challenge, you know, was when I had to do my PhD. And after I came back from the Soviet Union and I started working, but I didn't get a permanent job, and I enrolled myself for a PhD, and I was married by then, and I had a small kid. And that was like challenging, that I was not able to really concentrate on my PhD. And then again, I managed to actually get a scholarship to go to Russia. And I said, well, this is my opportunity. Once I get there, I know I will not have any other, you know, kind of disturbance. And that will be my best way to finish my PhD. So that was very tough. I think that was the toughest period of my life in my career, if I can say, because I had to leave behind my little daughter, and I was, you know, tormented with kind of feelings of guilt that I'm leaving my kid behind, and at the same time I wanted to pursue my career and finish the PhD. Well, I left. I did get a lot of support from my family, you know. They said, yes, go, we are here and we are going to take care of the kid. But I think that ingrained motherhood, you know, that you have, that, oh my God, I'm leaving my kid behind, and will she be okay, will she not be okay, that kept me kind of quite, what to say, it used to kind of bother me quite a bit, even when I was there. But still, well, with the support of my family, I managed well. I came back, and I finished my PhD, and then that helped me to get my permanent job. So, but if you're talking about the tough time, well, that was the tough time.
Okay, so you have been in Russia for like a longer period of time. So, do you face any, you know, cultural differences, and how is it like to be there?
See, frankly telling you, since I studied there and I was there for 5 years, in the beginning, yes, you know, the weather was a problem, the food was a problem. It's cold over there, they're mostly non-vegetarians. And at that time, one was not getting, you know, very many fresh vegetables, etc. So that time it was a challenge. But again, you know, once you start living in the country, you start speaking the language, you start understanding things, you start overcoming these barriers. So now, of course, I go back a lot. You know, I go and attend conferences. I have some very good friends. And so I don't feel that I feel very much at home. So I don't feel any barrier as such, you know. So I have, in fact, my Russian friends tell me, they said, it seems that you were perhaps Russian in your last birth, because you're so much like us. So and it's through the years, because when you're interacting so much and you're going there and you're reading about them and you're, you know, keeping up to date with them, you overcome that. So I feel that I have a dual personality. I'm Indian and I'm Russian also.
So can we say this, that you partially belong to Russia?
I can say that. Okay. I can say that with a lot of happiness and confidence.
Okay. How have your experiences influenced the research interest and the way you approach teaching Russian language and literature to the students and the people?
Yeah, so actually teaching the language, of course, also had its own kind of ups and downs and challenges, you know, because students that you get, yeah, sometimes a lot of students think, oh, learning a foreign language is like very easy. So they take admission, and then they realize that it is really a lot of hard work, and until and unless you're not prepared to put in that hard work, you're not going to get anywhere with the language. And especially because you're learning the language sitting in India, which is, you're not in that milieu, you're not in those surroundings. So you're learning the language for 2 hours, 3 hours in a class, and you go back home, and then, then again, you're, in a way, you're not using the language. So that, like motivating the students to kind of get interested in the language. You use various means, there's play acting that goes on, you show films, you show, you use all these methods. So that is one way. And then introducing them to Russian literature, to short stories, and showing them that, what a great work of art all of Russian literature is. Introducing them to Russian cinema, which is also very rich. That is the way that you kind of try to inculcate an interest in the students, So some students are very good to pick up quickly, some students lag behind. But as a teacher, my task has been that, okay, now if this student has come into my class, he or she must go back, with an interest in Russian, must go back with something, and not just let it be like, okay, time pass ho gaya. Yeah.
Okay, like if somebody wants to learn some foreign language, like I pursued a foreign language during my graduation, but though I have interest in it, but I am not able to learn it like further. So how can a person do that?
So again, it depends on that person's interest level also, And I think a lot of youngsters now feel, what are they going to get out of it also in the material way? It's not just ki, acha, we've learnt it, it's a beautiful language and all
Correct.
that. Everybody is obviously interested in, either pursuing it as a career. What are they going to get out of it? So that way one has to again, mold your courses in such a way. Like we have now a lot of students who go in for medical tourism, because there are a lot of patients coming from the erstwhile Soviet republics. They still speak Russian, they need help. So that has become like a career option. Translation has become a career option, translating literature, translating other data. And our relationship with Russia has always been very good. So, in Navy, there are jobs in Navy. So you try to motivate the students in that way also, that yes, you would be able to get something out of the language, but you need to kind of course, bring it up to a reasonable level for you to, get something out of it. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, how do you incorporate discussions of gender, identity and cultural dynamics into your curriculum, and what are the changes that you have seen in the perspectives of your students or the people?
So actually, let me tell you that International Women's Day, since you're talking about it, used to be celebrated. I mean, when I went there to study, which was in the 70s, this is the first time I heard of International Women's Day, and it used to be a big holiday. So 8th March is like a national holiday in Russia, which was never there in India. So there was already this kind of gender kind of issue in this. Women's Day is being celebrated. Women are so kind of respected in the society. And talking about the curriculum, there's such a range of absolutely wonderful Russian women writers, who have written amazingly and about, the emancipation of women, or what their struggles have been, how they have kind of overcome them. So you kind of give your students that perspective also of women writers. Not to say that there are no good Indian women writers. I mean, that is also, another great field. So you try to do that with your students through literature, through short stories that you read with them. And I've been sort of motivating my students to take up research topics. Like, one of my students did a research topic on motherhood in Russian and Indian society through literature, So in that sense, you kind of take this forward, especially when you discuss with them, okay, we read this particular story, what do you think was the woman's role? Why did she behave like this? So you bring in that kind of gender issues definitely when you're discussing literature with them.
Okay, as per my understanding, in our like be it any field, be it tech, be it languages, be it any other field, we have somebody who has influenced us, who has been a great mentor to us. So is there any such person in your life?
Well, my father was a big inspiration for me, firstly. And then when I went to the Soviet Union to study, two of my teachers, who are sadly who are not there anymore, they were like my real mentors for me. I really emulate them, their teaching, the way they kind of approached us foreign students. So I still remember them. And very often when I was teaching, I would remember them in my class and say, okay, this is how she used to do it. This is the way I'm going to do it.
Okay. So what course or topic that you teach do you feel resonates most with your students?
In literature, some of the topics that resonate with students is really, depiction of, what to say, the small man. There's a concept in Russian literature, the small man, and how he overcomes his struggles. This kind of a hero who kind of struggles in his life, and then he's able to kind of, overcome that struggle and make an impact. That resonates a lot. There is village prose, which is again a big topic in Russian literature. That resonates a lot with the students. And some of the kind of little love angle stories also resonate with the students. So yeah, it's a mixture. It's a bag of a lot of variety.
Which one is your favorite topic and your favorite writer?
Or amongst the Russian writers,
Yes.
yeah, there are many actually. Well, one women poet writer, Anna Akhmatova, is my favorite because she wrote beautiful poems, and she wrote about the time when there was the war that went on in the Soviet Union, and how the women struggled at that time. Then there's of course the the father of Russian literature, Alexander Pushkin. In fact, he's the founder really of modern Russian literature. He is my favorite writer. He has such a variety. He has poems, he has plays, he has stories for children and novels. He's the first one who wrote a novel in verse. And in fact, our own Indian writer Vikram Seth was so influenced by that he wrote a novel called The Golden Gate under his influence. So I mean, there are many, many writers who I'm very, very fond of. Yeah.
Okay, how do you blend literature students with other fields like cinema, folkfare, and any other creative field?
So actually, it's all a very big kind of a bag of everything. So even in our classes, I was using cinema a lot. Actually, Russians have done great cinema based on their literary works. So we were using this in our class. Like, we've read a literary work, we've discussed it. Okay, now let us see the film that has been made on it by the Russians. So in fact, interdisciplinary studies, maybe it's become a modern field now, but we were doing a lot of interdisciplinary work in our teaching, Russian, and especially at the higher level, at BA and MA level. You've done a literary work, you show the film, you discuss it. That is being used. Folklore is a part of our subject. We definitely do folklore also. And then in order to motivate the students, we would do a lot of singing. Okay, let's put up this play. So these are all, it's all mixed, and it's just so very, very interesting. Big, rich kind of the output that you get out of this.
Okay.
Yeah?
So what is the scope and challenges that some students are pursuing Russian language or any other foreign language? What are some scopes and challenges in that?
So, well, scope is today, it's such a multipolar world, and we are talking about globalization. So foreign languages help in that. I mean, though English is becoming predominant, but still any foreign language has its own value and has a lot of usage. And what else did you ask me? The second thing?
What is the scope and challenges?
The challenges, well, of course, the challenge of learning a new language is always there, because you have to really start from scratch. Sometimes people don't like, acha, you're grown up and you're doing A, B, C, D and saying, acha, we have to do phonetics, we have to make them pronounce properly. So that challenge is there. And I think these days, I mean, I feel that the students have so much because of the internet and because of computerization and actually being able to interact also, over the net. So they are at an advantage, in fact, these days, which we were not when we were learning the language. Having said that, I don't know if maybe that's also a disadvantage because they really, a lot of them now take the easy way out. But but the scope, challenge, all of it goes together. And when you work hard, you overcome the challenge, and then you see the good result in front of you.
So, as you mentioned about globalization, how do you think globalization has affected the mindset of people who want to pursue Russian language or say any other foreign language?
So, yeah, globalization has definitely affected people because you're not living now in your own cocoon, everything is opened up and people are becoming more and more aware of other countries. So, the curiosity level has gone up, and I think it's a very good thing that people want to know about other cultures and they are kind of open to learning the language, and that world opens out for you. Like I said, learning a foreign language really opens out the world to you. So, that way, it's been a very, very positive thing, and it actually leads to better understanding between people, and there's a new subject now that has come up which is called cross-cultural communication, where we actually teach our students, like, see, this is the way you have to address the Russians, and the Russians or other people have also begun to are understanding that, okay, if you add G, after a word, addressing a person in India, so that is really a form of respect, and how well that is taken. So these kind of aspects, globalization, and in the way also teaching other people that these are the specificities of this culture, these are the specificities of this culture, and if we understand that, then we will never have a communication breakdown, So that is the way globalization has worked in a way. Yeah.
Okay. As we discussed that you have served as a professor for like over 3 decades. So, how did you manage the demands of research, teaching, and academic welfare? How did you manage all that?
See, you just get into the you just get into the rhythm of things. I mean, you know that you have to do it, and you find your slots, and it is done. Now it's difficult to say how you managed it. Well, it was a struggle, but you do it. You find your ways. Okay, I'm heading the department. Okay, I have to reach there early. I have to take care of this. I have to teach these classes. I know that I have to do it. I have to prepare that. So you end up kind of, working on your own time frame and taking it forward. You can't, you just take up the challenge. Once you're in it, you just take it, and that's it. You have to see the results for yourself.
Okay, so here comes my last question for you. What message or what advice or what suggestion would you like to give to the people, or especially the women who want to pursue their careers in academia?
I would give them the advice that academics is a very good field, yes, to go into. It requires hard work, of course, but it also gives you a lot of satisfaction. For me personally, it gave me a lot of satisfaction because I just loved interacting with students, and you're kind of, you're very youthful all the time because you're there with the younger generation. And if you take it on as a kind of a duty, that yes, you're going to make an impact on the younger generation, you're there for them, and they are our future, then it's really a wonderful profession to be in. And I think a lot of women now are into academics, and they're really doing a great job. In Delhi University itself, there are just so many women teachers, women professors. Most of the colleges, are women teachers. So I think the young girls also are going in for that, and it's a great thing to be in. Every profession has a challenge, but and I think once you're motivated enough and you know that you want to do it, you overcome those challenges.
Thank you so much for being here with us. So this was Dr. Nilakshi Suryanarayan with us, who pursued her career as a teacher, as a professor in Russian language, and she went to Russia for her studies, and she shared her struggles, her life stories, her achievements, everything in this interview. So this was it for today. Keep watching Jagran Josh for more such interviews and videos. Thank you.